Look around for a second. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to shine. Everybody wants to dream, but most people don't want the process. They're waiting for some miracle, some overnight success, some moment where everything just clicks. But life doesn't work like that. Life pays you back in small deposits, not jackpots. Growth is not about flipping your whole world in a single day. It's about stacking small wins, one on top of the other, until they turn into something unstoppable. The truth is, you don't have to be twice as good today as you were yesterday. You don't have to move mountains every morning. You just have to move yourself 1% forward. 1% better in your mind, 1% better in your body, 1% better in your habits. That's it. 1% might feel small, but stacked over weeks, months, years, that's how you transform. That's how ordinary turns into extraordinary. So if you're sitting here thinking you've got too far to go, stop stressing about the finish line. Stop thinking you need it all right now. The question is simple. Are you willing to take one step today? Improvement doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be some overnight transformation that shocks everybody around you. The truth is, the greatest changes in life are usually invisible at first. They happen in small increments, in little choices, in moments when nobody's watching. When you commit to getting just 1% better every day, you're building a foundation that can't be shaken, because it's not about instant gratification. It's about compounding effort. Think about what 1% looks like. It's not a big leap. It's not a full turnaround. It's small. But when you stack those small moves day after day, week after week, year after year, they turn into something unstoppable. But most people underestimate the power of small gains. They look at their goals and get overwhelmed. They want to lose weight, and instead of starting with one push-up, they try to flip their entire lifestyle overnight. They want to build wealth, and instead of saving a little consistently, they chase some shortcut scheme that promises instant results, and when it doesn't work, they quit. The truth is, quitting isn't usually about lack of talent or lack of opportunity. It's about a lack of patience to let small progress accumulate. 1% a day is patience put into action. It's trusting the process even when you can't see the finish line. Imagine a jar where you drop a penny every single day. At first it feels meaningless. After a week you barely see the difference. After a month it still looks light. But give it a year, give it 5 years, give it 10 years, and that jar will be heavy, stacked with all those daily drops. That's how growth works. You won't notice it in the moment, but if you stay committed, one day you'll look back and realize how far you've come. And that's when people around you start calling it success. They'll think it happened overnight, but you'll know it was the little steps nobody saw that created it. 1% a day is also about sustainability. You can't always run at 100. Life is too unpredictable. There will be days when energy is low, when motivation fades, when the world seems stacked against you. But if you're chasing just 1%, you don't need perfection. You don't need to dominate every single day. You just need to move forward, even if it's by an inch. That way, when storms come, and they will, you won't lose momentum completely. You might slow down, but you won't stop. You'll still be growing, still compounding, still building. There's another layer to it. The 1% builds character. When you take on massive change in one shot, it often crumbles because you didn't build the habits to support it. Habits are formed through repetition, not inspiration. Every day you commit to a small gain, you're carving a groove into your identity. You're telling yourself, this is who I am. I'm somebody who grows. I'm somebody who pushes forward. Over time, that identity becomes unshakable. And when identity shifts, results follow naturally. You don't have to force them anymore. It's also about trusting yourself. If you can't keep the little promises, how will you ever believe you can keep the big ones? 1% is like practicing trust. You say, I'll improve today, and then you actually do it. Maybe it's reading one page of a book. Maybe it's drinking one more glass of water. Maybe it's spending 10 minutes working on your craft. It doesn't matter how small it seems. What matters is you told yourself you would do it, and you did. That consistency builds self-respect, and self-respect is fuel for bigger moves. Because once you've proven to yourself that you can handle the small, you stop doubting that you can handle the big. Hey, think about athletes, musicians, entrepreneurs, anyone at the top of their game. They didn't get there because of one big moment. They got there because of thousands of hours of small, deliberate effort. Practice after practice, rehearsal after rehearsal, adjustment after adjustment. It's those 1% days stacked together that created mastery. You don't have to chase being great in a single leap. You just have to chase being better than you were yesterday. Here's the truth. 1% isn't always sexy. It won't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels boring. Sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. But that's where most people give up, when the progress is invisible. If you can push through that phase, if you can stay committed when it feels like the needle isn't moving, you'll separate yourself from the majority. Most people need the reward right now. They can't hold the vision long enough to let the process do its work. But if you can accept the slow grind, you'll be the one reaping the benefits years down the line. There's also something powerful about momentum. Once you start moving, even if it's small, you create energy, and energy attracts more energy. Improvement becomes addictive. At first, 1% feels like a task, but then it becomes a rhythm. Then it becomes your lifestyle. Suddenly, you're not even thinking about it. You're just doing it. And that's when growth accelerates, because the small gains start compounding faster. The early stages are the hardest because you can't see much change. But once you hit that tipping point, growth takes on a life of its own. 1% a day teaches humility too. It forces you to accept that you don't know everything, that you don't have it all figured out. You start looking for little ways to grow, little lessons to apply, little opportunities to stretch. That humility keeps you learning, keeps you hungry, keeps you sharp. The moment you think you're too good to improve, that's the moment you start declining. But when you're chasing 1%, you're always a student, and students never stop evolving. And at the core, it's about vision. 1% only works if you believe in the big picture. You have to trust that small effort multiplied over time leads to greatness. Without vision, you'll get tired of the grind. Without vision, you'll stop stacking those days. But if you keep your eyes on what those small steps are building toward, you'll never lose direction. Every little move becomes meaningful because you know it's connected to something bigger. Discipline is what separates dreams from reality. Motivation might get you started, but discipline is what keeps you moving when the fire fades. Motivation is like a spark. It lights quick, burns bright, but it can also die out fast. Discipline is the engine that keeps running even when the road gets long and the weather turns rough. Anybody can get hyped when things feel exciting, when a new idea is fresh, when the energy is high. But what happens on the days when you wake up tired, when nothing feels inspiring, when the results aren't showing yet? That's where discipline steps in. It doesn't care about how you feel in the moment. It only cares about the commitment you made to yourself. Discipline is about showing up whether or not the conditions are perfect. Most people wait for the right mood, the right timing, the right level of energy before they move. But if you only work when you feel like it, you'll never build anything that lasts. Life doesn't hand out opportunities to the most talented, it rewards the most consistent. The person who shows up every day, rain or shine, builds momentum that nobody can stop. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes like the weather, but discipline creates seasons of growth. Think about an athlete in training. There are days when their body aches, when the alarm clock feels like punishment, when every muscle is screaming to quit. If they relied on motivation, they'd roll over and sleep in. But with discipline, they lace up their shoes and put in the work. That's how champions are made. Not in the moments of hype, not in the highlight reels, but in the grind nobody sees. Discipline is the repetition of small actions, day after day, until greatness is built brick by brick. Discipline also teaches you control over yourself. Everybody has desires, distractions, temptations pulling at them every single day. The world is full of things designed to keep you comfortable, to keep you entertained, to keep you stagnant. Discipline is the ability to say no when it's easier to say yes. It's turning off the TV so you can study. It's skipping the party so you can rest for tomorrow's work. It's choosing to invest your money instead of blowing it on instant pleasure. These choices don't always feel rewarding in the moment, but over time they separate those who grow from those who stay stuck. Discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from wasted time, freedom from being controlled by impulses. The truth is, discipline builds strength in places motivation never can. Motivation is emotional, discipline is structural. Motivation depends on how you feel, but discipline is who you are. When you practice discipline, you're shaping your identity. You're no longer someone who just talks about goals. You're someone who lives by them. That's powerful because identity creates habits and habits create results. Once you see yourself as disciplined, every action aligns with that vision. You don't have to argue with yourself every day about whether you'll do the work you already know you will. It's not about being perfect either. Discipline doesn't mean you never miss a day or make mistakes. It means you don't let the slip-ups define you. You fall off track, but you get back on without hesitation. You don't spiral, you don't quit, you don't beat yourself up. You recognize the mistake, adjust, and keep moving forward. That's where discipline shows its strength, gives you resilience. Motivation will have you give up after a bad day. Discipline tells you to reset and keep going because the work isn't about one day, it's about the bigger picture. Discipline is also tied to patience. We live in a world that glorifies instant results. Everyone wants success overnight, recognition tomorrow, change right now. But anything real takes time. Discipline keeps you locked in when the results are invisible, when the growth isn't obvious, when nobody is clapping for you. It lets you plant seeds today, water them tomorrow, and trust they'll grow even if you can't see them yet. Without discipline, you dig up the soil every week looking for progress and kill the process. With discipline, you understand that slow growth is still growth and eventually it pays off. The connection between discipline and self-respect can't be ignored either. Every time you follow through on your commitments, you prove to yourself that your word means something. That builds confidence. Confidence doesn't come from empty affirmations. It comes from discipline. It comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, knowing you'll keep pushing even when nobody is holding you accountable. Discipline earns you your own trust, and once you trust yourself, the opinions of others lose their power over you. People who rely only on motivation often burn out. They start strong, then fade as soon as life gets hard. Discipline prevents that burnout because it doesn't run on emotion, it runs on habit. It creates a steady rhythm, a pace you can maintain for years. Think about a marathon runner versus a sprinter. Motivation is the sprinter. It's explosive but short-lived. Discipline is the marathon runner. It's steady, enduring, and built for the long road. If your dreams are big, if your goals stretch years into the future, discipline is the only fuel that will get you there. Another thing about discipline, it's contagious. When people see you moving consistently, when they see you grinding day after day, it inspires them in a way that motivation never could. Motivation is something you talk about. Discipline is something you live. It doesn't just change your life. It changes the lives of those watching. It raises the standard in your circle. It sets the tone for your family. It becomes a blueprint for anyone who wants to grow. That ripple effect is powerful, and it all comes from discipline, not from chasing fleeting bursts of energy. At its core, discipline is love for your future self. It's sacrificing a little comfort now so you can build something greater later. It's refusing to be ruled by the easy path, choosing instead to walk the path that leads to growth, no matter how tough it feels. Motivation might push you for a day, a week, maybe a month, but discipline carries you for a lifetime. Vision stretches farther than the moment. Vision is the picture you hold in your mind of what your life can be, even when your current situation doesn't reflect it yet. Long-term vision means you're not caught up in the instant payoff, the quick fix, or the shortcut. It's about looking years ahead and moving today like you're already walking in that future. Most people never get there because they're too hungry for right now. They want the recognition, the money, the status, the body, the lifestyle immediately, and when it doesn't come fast, they fold. But those who think long-term know the game is patience, persistence, and process. They don't chase what's easy, they build what lasts. Long-term vision is like planting an orchard. You don't drop seeds today and expect fruit tomorrow. You dig, you water, you protect the soil, and you wait. Seasons come and go. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it's dry, sometimes it looks like nothing is happening at all, but underground, roots are growing. Foundations are forming. That's the work you can't see but can't skip either. People with vision understand that delay doesn't mean denial. Just because you can't see results yet doesn't mean they aren't on the way. They trust the process because their eyes are fixed on the bigger picture. This kind of vision requires sacrifice. You can't hold on to every distraction and still move forward. You can't live only for the moment and expect to win in the future. Having vision means saying no to a lot of things. It means turning down quick money if it doesn't align with your purpose. It means ignoring the noise of people who don't see what you see. It means taking the slower path when the fast one looks tempting, because you know the fast one leads to collapse. Vision forces you to live discipline, not because someone's forcing you, but because you've already seen where you want to be and you refuse to settle for less. When you think long term, setbacks don't break you. You might lose a battle, but you know the war is still yours. You might take a step back, but the vision tells you it's just part of the climb. That's why long-term thinkers bounce back quicker than most. They see failure as data, not as death. They understand that one bad chapter doesn't ruin the story. They see rejection as redirection, pointing them closer to the place they're meant to be. Without vision, a failure feels like the end. With vision, it's just another step in the marathon. Vision also gives you focus. When you know exactly where you're headed, you stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You're not easily distracted by what's trending, what's popular, or what everybody else is doing. You move with intention. Every choice becomes a piece of the blueprint. You start measuring decisions not by how they feel today, but by whether they bring you closer to where you want to be years from now. That focus is rare because most people are pulled in 100 directions by every shiny opportunity, but when your vision is clear, your path is clear too. And long-term vision doesn't just shape your actions, it shapes your mindset. It teaches you patience, it builds resilience, it grows faith in yourself. It's a way of thinking that says, I don't need the reward today because I know it's coming tomorrow. That mindset keeps you calm when things are slow, keeps you grounded when distractions are loud, keeps you steady when life throws chaos your way. It makes you immune to the instant gratification culture that keeps most people stuck. There's also power in how vision affects the people around you. When you carry a long-term vision, you inspire those who watch you. You become an example of consistency, of persistence, of belief. People see your patience and your progress, and it gives them permission to dream bigger too. Vision isn't just personal, it spreads, it shifts environments, it changes conversations, it creates culture. That's why leaders always think in decades, not in days. They know the seeds they plant today will feed generations. But vision is not just dreaming, it's aligning your daily grind with that dream. A long-term vision without daily action is just fantasy. You can see the mansion in your head, but if you don't lay one brick at a time, it will never stand. People with true vision don't just talk about what they want. They move in ways that reflect it, even in the smallest steps. They let the big picture guide the little choices. Every workout, every page read, every dollar saved, every hour invested, it all stacks toward that future they've already claimed. Another part of vision is knowing that the journey will be lonely at times. Not everyone will understand why you move the way you do. Not everyone will see the future you see. Some people will call you crazy, unrealistic, or obsessed, and that's fine. Long-term vision requires a level of faith most people don't have because it asks you to believe in something you can't yet touch. You have to be willing to walk by that belief, even if the crowd is walking in the opposite direction. That's the price of vision. Long-term vision also forces you to think legacy. It's not just about what you get, it's about what you leave. You stop asking, what can I have today, and start asking, what will still stand when I'm gone? That's why vision-driven people move differently. They don't just want quick wins, they want lasting impact. They want to create systems, businesses, art, communities, families, and movements that outlive them. That's the difference between being remembered for a moment and being remembered forever. And it comes back to belief. If you don't believe in your future, you'll settle for your present. If you can't see beyond today, you'll be trapped by today. Vision is the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the reason you wake up and grind when there's no applause. It's the reason you sacrifice when nobody notices. It's the reason you keep moving when the road is long. Because deep down, you've already seen the destination and you know every step is worth it. Losses are part of the process. Anybody chasing growth, chasing success, chasing something bigger than themselves is going to hit walls. You're going to fall short. You're going to put energy into something and watch it crumble. That's a tax of ambition. Too many people see failure as the end, like it's proof they weren't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. But the ones who keep rising understand that every loss carries a lesson. Failure is not a verdict, it's feedback. It's the universe showing you what doesn't work so you can refine what does. The only way to never lose is to never try, and that's the biggest loss of all. When you learn to see losses as information instead of punishment, everything changes. You stop avoiding risk, you stop fearing mistakes, and you start experimenting with life. You start trying things most people would never dare because you know even if it doesn't work, you walk away with knowledge that nobody can take from you. That mindset separates winners from quitters. Quitters let the pain of failure break them. Winners let the pain of failure shape them. They don't run from it, they lean into it because they know every bruise, every scar, every setback is molding them into someone sharper, tougher, and wiser than before. Think about how a child learns to walk. They fall hundreds of times. They wobble, they stumble, they hit the ground again and again. But each fall teaches balance. Each attempt strengthens muscles. Each mistake brings them closer to standing tall. Nobody would call those falls failures. They're just part of learning. Somewhere along the way, adults forget that. They start treating mistakes like shame instead of steps forward. But if you can bring back that childlike mindset where every loss is just practice, you unlock growth that most people never tap into. Losses also build humility. Success can make you feel untouchable, like you've got it all figured out. Failure brings you back to the ground. It reminds you that you don't know everything, that there's still room to grow, still skills to sharpen, still strategies to adjust. That humility keeps you hungry. It keeps you open to feedback, to new ideas, to collaboration. Without humility, you get arrogant, and arrogance blinds you to the traps ahead. Losses hurt, but they save you from the bigger pain of staying blind. And losses reveal character. Anybody can smile and celebrate when they're winning, but who are you when the deal falls through? Who are you when the crowd stops cheering? Who are you when you put in months of work and it collapses in front of you? That's where you meet your real self. Do you quit or do you get back up? Do you blame the world or do you take responsibility? Do you run or do you rebuild? Every time you choose to rise after falling, you're building resilience. Resilience is the armor that keeps you moving through storms. Without losses, you never develop it. Without losses, you stay fragile, and fragile doesn't survive long in this world. But there's also power in the perspective losses give you. Once you've been through enough setbacks, you stop fearing them. You realize they don't destroy you. They sting, they bruise, they test you, but they don't end you. And when you know you can survive the worst, you move with a different kind of confidence. You take bigger swings. You aim for higher goals. You stop playing small because you know even if you fail, you'll stand up again. The freedom makes you dangerous in the best way. It puts you in spaces others are too scared to enter. Losses teach you patience too. We live in a culture obsessed with instant results, with highlight reels, with quick success stories, but behind every win you see is 100 quiet losses you didn't. Every great athlete, every business leader, every artist, every innovator, you can trace their journey back to countless failures that didn't make the headlines. Losses remind you that greatness isn't built overnight. It's sculpted through trial and error, through persistence, through a long grind where you fail more times than you succeed. Patience grows in the soil of failure because you realize it's not about winning fast, it's about not quitting slow. And losses connect you to others. When you're vulnerable enough to admit you failed, you inspire people who are struggling in silence. Too many walk around pretending life is perfect, hiding their mistakes like scars. But when you share your lessons, you show people it's possible to fall and still rise. You create space for honesty, for authenticity, for real growth. Leaders who only show their wins feel distant. Leaders who share their losses feel human. And people follow humans, not robots. Another thing about losses, they sharpen your strategy. A plan that looks perfect on paper will often collapse in real life. Failure exposes the cracks. It shows you where you weren't prepared, where you overlooked details, where your assumptions were wrong. That's not the end of the road. It's the blueprint for the next attempt. You adjust, you refine, you come back smarter. Each loss upgrades your playbook, and sooner or later that playbook delivers results. Losses also strip away what's fake. People who are only around you for the wins will disappear when you lose. People who truly believe in you will stay. Failure cleans your circle. It removes the noise, the opportunists, the ones who only clap when you're shining. It leaves you with the ones who value you, not just your victories. That's a painful lesson, but it's priceless. Better to lose fake love during losses than carry it into your future. And when the wins finally come, the losses make them sweeter. Victory means more when you've bled for it. Success feels different when you remember the nights you doubted yourself, the mornings you wanted to quit, the seasons where nothing worked. The joy of winning is magnified by the pain of losing. Without struggle, triumph feels empty. Without setbacks, success feels shallow. The losses give the wins their flavor. So losses are never just losses. They're teachers, they're mirrors, they're filters, they're blueprints. They shape your character, refine your vision, and fuel your growth. If you avoid them, you avoid becoming who you're meant to be. If you embrace them, you turn every failure into a stepping stone. The people who keep rising aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who never let failure have the last word. The environment you keep is either feeding your growth or starving it. You can have all the ambition in the world, all the drive, all the hunger, but if the space you live in, the people you surround yourself with, and the energy you let into your life don't align with your goals, you'll stay stuck. Environment is bigger than motivation, bigger than talent, because it shapes your habits every single day. You can't plant a seed in concrete and expect it to grow. You need the right soil, the right light, the right atmosphere. Humans are no different. If you're in an environment full of negativity, it's going to be hard to think positive. If you're around people who settle, it's going to be hard to chase more. If you're in spaces where comfort is the culture, it's going to be hard to embrace discipline. Whether you notice it or not, environment is shaping you. Conversations you hear, attitudes you absorb, energy that surrounds you, it all seeps into your mind. That's why it's said you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's not just a catchy line, it's reality. Hang around complainers long enough, you'll start complaining. Hang around hustlers long enough, you'll start grinding. Energy is contagious. The problem is most people don't protect their environment. They let anybody in. They think loyalty means keeping toxic relationships alive. They think family ties mean accepting cycles that don't serve them. They think friendship means sticking around people who don't believe in growth. But protecting your environment isn't betrayal, it's survival. You can't let guilt keep you trapped. You can love people from a distance, but you can't let their comfort kill your progress. Growth demands you curate the energy around you with intention. Environment is more than just people, it's also the habits and systems you build around yourself. If your home is full of clutter, distraction, and chaos, it's going to be hard to focus. If your phone is filled with apps and notifications pulling you in 100 directions, it's going to be hard to stay disciplined. If your schedule is unplanned, it's going to be hard to stay consistent. The physical space you live in reflects in your mental space. Clean, organized, purposeful environments lead to cleaner, more focused thoughts. When you choose to change your environment, you start giving yourself permission to grow. You may not even notice how heavy the energy has been until you step away from it. Being around people who encourage, who challenge, who inspire feels different. It wakes up a fire inside you. Being in spaces designed for learning and creating fuels your progress in ways you didn't realize you were missing. Sometimes the biggest shift you can make isn't inside your mind, it's outside, in the atmosphere you breathe in every day. There's also the pressure environment creates. Put yourself in a room full of people who are 10 steps ahead of you, and you'll either step up or step out. That pressure is healthy. It forces you to stretch, to level up, to raise your standards. Too many people stay in rooms where they're the smartest, the strongest, the most successful, and they wonder why they aren't growing. Comfort doesn't create progress. Growth happens in spaces where you feel slightly uncomfortable, where you're pushed to expand. That's the kind of environment that forces evolution. At the same time, the wrong environment can destroy ambition. You can have a powerful vision and still watch it die if you're constantly surrounded by doubt and negativity. Words matter, energy matters. If the people closest to you laugh at your goals, dismiss your progress, or feed you fear, eventually you'll start internalizing it. Even the strongest minds get worn down by toxic surroundings. That's why protecting your environment isn't optional, it's necessary. You owe it to yourself to build a circle that matches your future, not your past. The beauty of environment is that it's a choice more often than people realize. You might not control where you start, but you control where you stay. You control who you text back, who you spend weekends with, who you let into your personal space. You control what you consume: books, music, podcasts, shows, social media. Every piece of content you take in is shaping your environment. Are you feeding yourself with distractions or with lessons, with gossip or with wisdom, with noise or with clarity? Your environment is not just around you, it's inside you. And every choice is a brick in that structure. The environment also impacts belief. When you're surrounded by people who are moving, achieving, creating, it becomes normal to think big. It becomes natural to believe success is possible. But when you're surrounded by people who gave up on themselves, you start lowering your expectations, you start shrinking your vision, you start thinking dreams are unrealistic. That's not truth, that's environment. What feels normal is determined by what's around you. And if you don't like what feels normal, it's time to change your surroundings. An environment plays a role in consistency too. It's easier to stay disciplined when the space around you supports it. If you want to work out but your circle values health, suddenly going to the gym feels natural. If you want to build wealth but your circle talks about investments and strategy, suddenly saving money feels obvious. If you want to create but your space is filled with tools, books, and inspiration, suddenly working on your craft feels effortless. The right environment reduces friction, making it easier to align your actions with your goals. Sometimes the hardest part is outgrowing an old environment. You'll feel guilt, you'll feel like you're leaving people behind, you'll feel resistance from those who don't want to see you change because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. But if you want to rise, you can't carry everyone with you. You can reach back later to inspire, to uplift, to guide, but you can't drag people who don't want to move. Protecting your environment means protecting your future. It means choosing purpose over comfort, growth over loyalty to dysfunction, and destiny over history. And once you build the right environment, everything else becomes smoother. Discipline feels less like a fight. Vision feels less distant. Losses feel less crushing because you're surrounded by support. Small improvements compound faster because the soil is rich and the atmosphere is right. Environment doesn't guarantee success, but it makes success possible. The wrong environment suffocates potential. The right environment unlocks it. Self-respect is the silent currency of growth. You can fool the world with appearances, with talk, with moments of performance, but you can't fool yourself. Deep down, you know if you're putting in the work, if you're keeping your word, if you're moving forward. Every time you grow, even just a little, you earn a piece of respect from yourself. And that self-respect is priceless because it becomes the anchor that keeps you steady through doubt, temptation, and chaos. You can lose money, lose people, lose status, but if you hold on to self-respect, you always have the foundation to rebuild. Self-respect doesn't come from outside validation, compliments, applause, recognition. They feel good, but they're temporary. The world can cheer for you one day and turn on you the next. If your confidence is built only on how others see you, it will always be fragile. Real self-respect comes from the small, quiet victories nobody else notices. It's when you promise yourself you wake up early and you did. It's when you said you saved instead of spend and followed through. It's when you wanted to quit but pushed for one more rep, one more page, one more step. Each of those choices deposits pride into your account. Over time, those deposits stack and you walk differently. Not arrogant, not fake, just grounded, knowing you can trust yourself. The relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship. If you don't respect yourself, you'll tolerate disrespect from others. You'll accept less than you deserve because you don't believe you're worth more. But when you grow and prove to yourself that you can change, that you can level up, that you can demand more from life, you stop settling. Growth creates proof. Proof creates belief. Belief creates boundaries. Boundaries protect your energy, your time, your peace. And boundaries backed by self-respect aren't about arrogance, they're about survival. Growth also reveals parts of you that you didn't even know were there. When you commit to improving, you unlock abilities, talents, and strengths that had been hidden under fear or laziness. Discovering those parts of yourself feels powerful. It makes you proud, not in a shallow way, but in a way that says, I didn't even know I had that in me. That pride becomes fuel. It pushes you to keep digging, to keep evolving, because you realize every step forward shows you more of who you really are. Self-respect grows in that process of discovery. There's also accountability. When you respect yourself, you stop making excuses for your own behavior. Growth forces you to face the parts of you that need work. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes it means admitting you were wrong, that you wasted time, that you let fear control you. But instead of beating yourself down, you use that honesty to improve. Self-respect doesn't mean pretending you're perfect. It means being real about your flaws and working on them anyway. It means holding yourself to a standard even when nobody else is watching. And with every step of growth, your confidence shifts from hope to certainty. At first, you hope you can change. You hope you can build discipline, achieve goals, live differently. But as you start stacking small wins, that hope becomes proof. And proof turns into certainty. You stop doubting if you can because you've already shown yourself you can. That certainty is what builds real confidence. Not the kind that needs to announce itself, but the kind that speaks through actions. That's the kind of confidence that walks into a room and changes the energy without saying a word. Growth also creates freedom. When you're stagnant, you feel trapped. Trapped by habits, by circumstances, by your own reflection. But when you see progress, even small progress, it breaks chains. It shows you that you're not stuck where you are, that you can evolve, that you have control over your life. That realization changes everything. Self-respect thrives in freedom because it comes from knowing you have power over your choices. Every time you take that power back, your respect for yourself rises. And when you carry self-respect, you stop chasing validation from places that don't matter. You don't need to prove your worth to people who don't see it. You don't beg for attention. You don't lower your standards. You don't lose yourself trying to fit in. Growth teaches you that the only validation you truly need is your own. And when you validate yourself through discipline, effort, and evolution, the outside validation becomes a bonus. not a necessity. That's the kind of freedom most people never experience because they too busy trying to please everyone else. Self-respect also protects you in hard times. Life is going to test you with loss, with failure, with doubt. When those storms come, you'll be tempted to fall apart. But if you've built respect for yourself through growth, you'll hold steady. You'll remember the times you pushed through. You'll remember the times you kept your word. You'll remember the proof you built step by step. That memory gives you strength when everything else is shaky. You trust yourself because you've seen what you can endure. Another piece of this is authenticity. Growth helps you peel back the layers of who you thought you had to be and get closer to who you really are. Living as your true self is one of the highest forms of self-respect. It means you're not hiding, not pretending, not living for approval. You're standing as yourself, flaws and all, and working to improve from a place of honesty. That authenticity attracts real connections, real opportunities, real fulfillment. When you respect yourself enough to be real, life starts aligning in ways that fake living never can. And it's not just about personal pride, it's about legacy. When you grow and respect yourself, you set a standard for the people around you, friends, family, kids, community. They all see how you move, they learn from your example. They pick up on your discipline, your boundaries, your authenticity. Your growth becomes a mirror reflecting back what's possible for them. Self-respect isn't selfish, it's contagious. It shows others they can rise too. Self-respect through growth isn't a finish line, it's a cycle. You grow, you earn respect, that respect fuels you to grow more. Each level leads to another, and over time you become someone unrecognizable from who you started as. Not because you faked it, not because you depended on others to lift you up, but because you put in the work and built a foundation no one can take away. Every step of growth is a step deeper into respect, and every step of respect is a step closer to freedom. At the end of the day, it's not about being perfect, it's about being better. 1% every day, that's the formula. Not giant leaps, not chasing shortcuts, not waiting on luck, just steady growth stacked over time. You master the art of small gains, you master the discipline to show up even without motivation. You lock in on a long-term vision, you learn from every loss, you protect your environment, and you build a level of self-respect that no one can take away. That's the blueprint. The world wants instant results, but we're not here for instant, we're here for legacy. We're here to build something real, something that lasts, something can't be shaken. And that doesn't come from one big moment. It comes from consistent, intentional progress, day after day. So don't leave here waiting for tomorrow. Don't leave here thinking the change is too far out of reach. Start with the 1% that's in front of you right now. Stack it again tomorrow and again the day after that. Before you know it, you won't just be better, you'll be unrecognizable from who you were when you started.